Shalom, call halal Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim call Kwadash. Double honors to the elders, elder apostles of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us his truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity. The brother Yahshua back with a quick update on this third woe. All right, and we're going to get Zephaniah 3 and 8 because here's what's going on. All right, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. All right, we're going to watch a short video, maybe a couple, get a couple of precepts, and then get out quick. Okay, so this is what? Let's see. What we got here? Let's get it. I believe this is it. Let's see. Secret files. Right here. Okay, this is Turkey's Erdogan tells Putin Israel needs to be taught a lesson. A deterrent lesson. Okay. And then it reads, Turkey and Russia to strike Israel. So you see this thing is morphing into the Third World War. All right, so Salakia on this. It's, commercial here.
Turkey's Erdogan tells Putin Israel needs to be taught deterrent lesson. Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan wants Israel to be taught a deterrent lesson as the Jewish state responds to attacks from militant Palestinian groups at its borders.
So what's going on? The Most High is gathering the troops down into the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. All right.
The Turkish strongman told Russian President Vladimir Putin that he wanted the international community to give Israel a strong and deterrent lesson, adding that the UN Security Council should intervene with determined and clear messages to it.
Okay, so now everybody is about to turn on the least of the flock in Babylon the Great. All right. You in my ass.
Israel. Erdogan made no secret of which side he was choosing in the conflict as he talked to Putin by phone Wednesday about the escalating military showdown between Israel and Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip, as reported by the Associated Press. The Turkish leader also pressed Putin on the need for a global force to protect the Palestinians. His remarks come as thousands of people in Istanbul broke a curfew late Tuesday to demonstrate against Israel's actions, and a convoy of cars waving Turkish and Palestinian flags and shouting, "Down with Israel, down with America," drove
I thought Turkey was part of the UN.
toward the Israeli consulate. Erdogan also criticized Israel earlier this week. Israel, the cruel terrorist state, attacks the Muslims in Jerusalem, whose only concern is to protect their homes and their sacred values, in a savage manner devoid of ethics, he said.
Okay, so can you see this thing is falling apart? All right. These alliances are falling apart. I don't think Israel was ever part of the UN. That's part of the problem. But Israel is allied with with Babylon the Great, so that there's a problem. All right. There is a problem. Okay, so let's get one more. We'll go ahead and get some precepts. So, see if I can just go backwards here. Let's see. Let's try to find another one. I don't think Deep Journal came out with a new one. Okay, because there's a ground war going on now too. All right. Let's get Israeli tanks have entered Gaza. All right, did we see this yesterday? Okay. sure I can find it somewhere else. Let me see. See what this guy's saying. Videos. Let's see. Okay, Hamas is pushing Israel into a ground war. This is the Watchman with Eric Steckelbeck 22 hours ago. Hamas is pushing Israel into a ground invasion. Iran using onslaught as dry run. Let's watch a little bit of this. Of course,
Phone charging slowly.
Of course, there's a commercial. All right, this is yesterday.
Taking the world by
Has an update on the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Will Israel send ground forces into Gaza to confront Hamas terror head on?
The answer is yes, they already did.
All the breaking details coming up. Hey folks, Eric Stackelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast, coming to you from TBN's New York City studio. But as I sit here in New York, the Middle East is quite literally on fire. Israel is facing major problems, to say the least, on two fronts right now. Of course, with some 1,500 rockets at last count coming out of Gaza, raining down on Israeli cities. And then we have internal strife between Arabs and Jews in several Israeli cities. But let's start with a quick update on the situation in Gaza.
Okay, so what he just said is there's the military war that's going on, okay, which is what they're saying is Hamas, and you got people in reserve like Hezbollah, right, all fighting for the Palestinians, and then you got the IDF, which is, you know, a recognized military force. They call the other ones everything but a military force, but Hamas is a military force. Hezbollah is a military force. Of course, you want to demonize them and say that they're terrorists. But who's the real terrorist? Okay? First of all, you're both fighting over land that doesn't belong to you. Okay? So consider that, because this guy is clearly on the side of the least of the flock. So listen to what he said.
This is ongoing right now. I'm coming.
Okay, so that's the military aspect of what's going on. And then there's the civilian aspect of what's going on, involving both sides. You got Israeli citizens, Israeli Jews. Then you got Israeli Arabs that are fighting each other down here. That's the two fronts that this guy is talking about. In the streets, basically. Okay? And those are both militaries too. The Arabs, the so-called Palestinians, were raised to be ready for this fight, knowing that one day it would come, and so they're going to fight until the death. All right? They know that they don't have a real chance, but that doesn't stop your heart. If you got heart, you're going to get out there and fight to the death anyway. That's what we're looking at.
On Thursday, May 13th, it's about 11 a.m. on the East Coast, which means it's 6 p.m. in Israel right now. Some 1,500 rockets are blanketing literally every area of Israel right now. Tel Aviv, where some 70% of the Israeli population lives in and around that Tel Aviv metropolitan area, continues to be barraged with rockets on a regular basis. They're also hitting now Beersheba, which is in the Negev desert. It's Israel's fourth largest city. And then we have Eilat. Now, Eilat is at the southernmost point of Israel, at the mouth of the Red Sea. Hamas has unveiled in this conflict their latest rocket. It is a long-range rocket. It weighs some 550 pounds. And today, sirens blared in Eilat, some 155 miles from Gaza, as rockets were incoming aimed at Eilat. Now, this is the longest range rocket that Hamas has ever used. They have unveiled this in the latest conflict that is ongoing. We had sirens as far as Nazareth in the Galilee last night at
Nazareth. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Not right now. Not with them imposters in our land.
well, so folks, this is a different conflict in a few different ways. Number one, obviously the distance that Hamas rockets are traveling. This long range rocket, for instance, that reached as far as Eilat today, again, over 150 miles. The distance, the size of the rockets, and the payload, the lethal capacity that these rockets are carrying, that's number one.
Okay, so does that take it from being a rocket into a missile, maybe? Or language means everything. A rocket, okay, ballistics, all right? What's going on here?
Number two, these are sustained barrages. Now, in the last go round between Israel and Hamas in 2014, the summer of 2014, nearly 7 years ago, yes, Hamas sporadically launched rockets towards Haifa, Tel Aviv, Beersheba, and points a little further away from their Gaza home base. But this time, there have been sustained and daily barrages against Tel Aviv in particular. That is a new level, without a doubt. Hamas is also using suicide drones, attack drones. We've talked about them many times here on the Watchman newscast, supplied by Hamas's Iranian master. More on that in a minute, and Iran's larger role looming in the background of this conflict, which I believe right now, folks, we can classify this as a war. There may be a ground invasion coming. Again, we'll get into that in a minute. One of Hamas's major goals with these long-range rockets that are targeting Tel Aviv and now Eilat is to shut down Israel's air travel. Those targets are no coincidence. Some of these rockets are falling near Israel's largest airport, Ben Gurion International Airport in Tel Aviv. When I travel to Israel, that
Okay, so they just implicated Iran. So here you got Turkey. You got Turkey and Vladimir. And now you got this guy, all right, letting you know what the alliance actually is. So we're looking at a world war. And it's only a matter of time before they declare it, all right? So, and ultimately, the Most High is doing what? He's gathering the troops into the valley of Yahweh. Let's get Joel. And we'll get out of here. Joel 3 and 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Okay? Jehoshaphat is Yahweh Shaphat, meaning the Most High's judgment. All right? The valley of judgment, the valley of decision. All right? Hey, this thing's going down. Isaiah 66 and 16. And hey, these same precepts are going to come out all week. All right? Here's what's going on. Isaiah 66 and 16. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. All right, what's that sword? A glittering sword. Fire and his sword. Okay? That the smith done blew the coals in the fire, and the real ICBMs are on their way. All right? So it's escalating. All right? We're going to keep a watch day by day. Hope that the elect were edified. And with that, shalom.